Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining our Q1 Market Insights for 2024. Looking forward to giving you an overview of what's going on in Cambodia's macroeconomy and the key real estate sectors. So please hold your seats, and we look forward to giving you in-depth knowledge on Cambodia's real estate market. So in terms of today's presentation, I'm joined by my colleague Kinkesa Kim, Deputy Managing Director of CBRE Cambodia. And just to briefly reintroduce myself, my name is Lawrence Lennon, and I am the Managing Director of CBRE Cambodia. So as I alluded to just a second ago, we'll start off with an overview of the macroeconomy and some of the key numbers that you need to be aware of for the year ahead. We will then run through the office, retail, hospitality, condominium, landed property, and then finally the serviced apartment sector. So please hold on tight. Oops, sorry, I'm just having some technical difficulties. We will have a Q&A section as well at the end, so please do send in your questions as we discuss some of these key items. So please do send in any questions that you might have. Okay. Please bear with us. Okay, so I think for most people in Cambodia right now, when we're looking at 2023 versus 2024, we're seeing a lot of similarities. We still have a lot of the economic long COVID that we are still trying to navigate. That said, though, we are seeing some green shoots. Some of those data points we'll discuss in the coming slides. We're looking at the World Bank, the ADB, IMF. Most of these key IFIs are very optimistic around the state of the market. As I alluded to, we're definitely seeing some of those green shoots, but the real estate market is without doubt suffering from a lot of the oversupply issues that we have discussed many times. Most of these key indicators are either on a flat trend or a downward trend, as you can see from the office occupancy, the retail occupancy, and the high-end condo sales prices. Name of the game, as I alluded to just a second ago, oversupply is really a key challenge that the real estate market is facing in Q1 and likely in the coming quarters. We saw continued completions in the market with some notable projects such as Novotel Phnom Penh and Connection. One thing I'd like to highlight about some of these recently completed projects is their embracing of new concepts. So Connection in particular is great because we're seeing new designs, we're seeing some eco-friendly concepts and a lot more greenery. So this is something that we're hoping to see continue over the short to midterm. We also saw a slowdown in new launches, which again is very positive because this is a sign that the market is really responding to the challenges at foot. That said, as we keep saying in all of our presentations, we hope to see further restrictions around planning, zoning, and the enforcement of such restrictions. So something to keep in mind and something we hope to see further embracing of in the Phnom Penh real estate market. When we're looking at the macro economy, it's so important to factor in the state of the global economy. China is definitely firefighting in key segments such as its real estate market and also with the escalating trade war. I think most people are expecting Trump to come back into office at the end of this year. So that's definitely something to keep in mind because it will further entrench that China-US trade conflict. It's likely to benefit Cambodia on that basis, and we're hoping that we will be the beneficiary of further reshoring or friendshoring, however you want to term it. Equally important for Cambodia is the health of the US market, particularly when it comes to consumer spending. We are seeing that sort of US or American exceptionalism, however you want to term it, definitely standing out. The US economy in terms of employment, a lot of key drivers are moving in the right direction. And looking at the short term just ahead, we're expecting the Fed rate to adjust downward in around May. So again, something positive and some green shoots for the global macroeconomy, particularly important for Cambodia's exports market. Europe, on the other hand, seems to be somewhere in the middle. The UK, Germany, some of these key European economies seem to be in some form of limbo. We will wait and see how that develops, but again, really important for exports, but also important for tourism, because of course, if consumers are feeling confident on the short to midterm, they will get on a plane and they will travel. So something that is pretty important for the Cambodian context. When we're looking closer to home, we're seeing some positive signs in terms of activity. We're seeing some positive PR. I was particularly happy to see the Spectator article, Why Cambodia is the Best Country in the World. It's nice to see some positive PR. So that is something that we were really pleased to observe. When it comes to wider activity in Phnom Penh, we're seeing the government really build out initiatives when it comes down to encouraging foreign direct investment. I've attended a great number of events in recent weeks relating to ASEAN, relating to Chinese investment. So it's good to see proactivity, and it's good to see the government and private sector working hard to promote Cambodia as an investment destination, which for sure we can see from the overall activity from Cambodia's government. We've seen Hun Manet and his cabinet all around the world, from the US to France, to the US, to Thailand, to Vietnam. This is something that we think is extremely important, and is great to be resetting the overall tone of things and the overall perception of doing business in Cambodia. It's good to see this promotion. So we're really positive around that, and we expect to see positive dividends in the midterm on the back of all of this promotional activity. Again, another area of green shoots is really in the form of the tourism market. I think if you talk with most GMs at the moment, things are still relatively sluggish, but the reality is that things are moving in the right direction. When we're looking at Q1 2024 versus Q1 2023 ticket sales at Angkor Wat, we can see improvement. We're looking at $11 million worth of ticket sales versus $16 million worth of ticket sales. So the numbers speak for themselves, and this ticket sales component is really the most important indicator when we're looking at real tourism. So that is great to see. We're seeing further deepening of connections between Cambodia and external markets with the launch of AirAsia's entry into the market, Emirates. We've also received a direct flight from Qatar. It stops off in Ho Chi Minh City, but the reality is that it really eases connectivity between Cambodia's tourism market and the rest of the world. So these are all really positive things, and they're likely to pay dividends in the short to midterm. When we're looking at arrival numbers, again, things are progressing in the right direction. I think we hit around 5.5 million tourists coming into Cambodia last year. The key challenge we face there is who is coming. When we're comparing 2023 with 2019, we can see there's a pretty significant dip in the Chinese arrivals. And the reality is that these were the highest spending entries into the market, though it's good to see this broad re-entry into the country. It's likely to spur trade. It's likely to spur tourism activity. So things, without doubt, are moving in the right direction. So that overall is something to be positive about. When we're looking at ourselves on a regional comparative basis, Cambodia is really punching when it comes to the GDP growth rate. We are just behind Vietnam when we're looking at the forecast for 2024, 2025. That said, Cambodia is actually just above Vietnam when we're looking at these IMF Q1 2024 numbers. I think a lot of people are skeptical to some extent on the ground of these higher GDP rate numbers because, as I alluded to earlier, we're still feeling that economic long COVID. That said, we are starting from a low base. Tourism is rebounding, and we are expecting to see manufacturing to start moving in the right direction this year. Approved investment into construction, we can see a downward trend without a doubt, but again, 2023 versus 2022 is a great improvement. We're looking at 84%. Where that investment is going, I understand that the majority is going into things like infrastructure and manufacturing, which again is really where we want that investment to be going at this stage. So an improvement, I think that's reflected in the total number of projects. We're seeing a larger amount of investment in a smaller number of active projects. So again, the scale of investment versus the number of projects is something that is probably positive because it's large-scale infrastructure projects or large-scale manufacturing activity. So that is something to be positive about. As many of you will know, the infrastructure activity that we're seeing in Cambodia is pretty impressive. We're seeing new expressways, new flyovers, bridges, etc., etc. The reality is that these things are pretty incredible when it comes to overall improvement of trade facilitation, reducing the cost of doing business in Cambodia. They improve tourism connectivity. They open up new areas for infrastructure, for industrial logistics activity. So that is without doubt positive. Two items in particular to be focusing on are the Cambodia Republic of Korea Friendship Bridge. That without doubt will have a major impact on Phnom Penh real estate. Outside of that, it's the Ring Road 4, which is under study. And then finally, the Funan Teco Canal. This canal is definitely something intriguing and without doubt will further improve how Cambodia reduces its cost of doing business. Right now, logistics costs are relatively expensive by comparison to our neighbors in Thailand and Vietnam. So seeing this infrastructure activity take place is certainly something positive. So just to dive into the office segment, we saw no new launches in Q1, but we're still continuing to see completions take place. No new launches is definitely good news. I think everybody at the CBRE team would completely agree. A slowdown in completions is good. That said, we're expecting to see just under 200,000 square meters of office space coming online this year. We're at 1 million square meters at the end of 2023. Next year, we're expecting to see around 1.4 million square meters of office supply coming online. We will expect to see a further reduction in the overall occupancy rate of both centrally owned and strata offices. When we're breaking those down, for centrally owned, we're seeing projects outperforming the strata units or the strata projects. Centrally owned, we're looking at around 65% average occupancy, and for the strata office developments, we're looking at around 45%. So there is a meaningful difference between those two performers. That's likely to come down to the developer. That's likely to come down to the overall management of these projects. It may also just be historic. These things are really important because the strata phenomena, as you can see from this graph, only really started to become a major part of the market after 2020 and 2021. So it's possible that difference in overall performance may just come down to timing of completions. On a Q-on-Q basis, we saw a pretty flat situation. Things are stabilizing somewhat, though when we look at the quoting rent versus transacted rent, things are stark in their difference. And again, if we're looking at things from a historic perspective, we're still seeing that sort of 20% drop in asking rates from the end of 2019 to today. So the realities are, if you're an office developer, things are extremely competitive. If you're an occupier, please get in touch with our office team. We'll definitely be able to get you a great deal at the moment. When we're looking at all of this supply coming online, we really have to ask ourselves, where does the demand come from? The traditional occupiers in this type of space, particularly the grade A, particularly the more premium end of the market, would be the major multinationals of the world. That said, we don't necessarily have the high number of multinationals that we see in other parts of Southeast Asia. We can see Vietnam and Thailand having more than double the supply of multinationals present. On this basis that, it's the same message that I started off with, that the supply side of things is going to continue to cause challenges in the Phnom Penh real estate market, particularly if we don't see further regulation of the overall supply, planning, and zoning. That is even more reflected in this 2022 economic census. These are some really, really interesting data points that our research consulting team have dug out. We can see here that the majority of the population is working in relatively small spaces. We can see the large proportion of the population working in a space lower than 30 square meters. And outside of that, a lot of people are working from home. And this, again, is a reflection of the more traditional style of doing businesses, particularly in small to medium-sized enterprises. So definitely raising some questions around the mid-term prospects and challenges that the office market will continue to face. So in terms of the key trends for the office market, we're still seeing a wide gap between asking and achieved rent. That is likely going to continue until the midterm. This, of course, is a reflection of overall economic activity. A lot of the potential traditional occupiers in this space are having tough times in the state of the market. Competition between centrally owned and strata office continues to intensify. These newcomers to the market are extremely aggressive, and they're offering very, very low rates when it comes to final transactions taking place. So again, if you're looking for office deals, please speak with us, talk with our office team. We're going to be able to help you find great value for money in these newly completed buildings. If you're a developer right now, the key is being as competitive and proactive as possible. If you're an occupier, as I alluded to, things are looking good. They're looking in your favor. So just keep that in mind if you're looking for a new place to call home, as it were. That said, we are observing some trends around the economic long COVID that I mentioned, causing potential movers to hesitate on their relocation decision-making. We've had a number of clients in Q1 say, we're going to extend our lease another year, we're going to wait and see, or we've been told by headquarters, we're going to have to be profitable or more profitable before we can make that move to a new office and have that office fit out. Certain landlords are responding by giving wider rent-free periods. Certain landlords are responding by giving fitted out space. It's a tough competition out there. So if you're a landlord and if you're tuned into this call, make sure you are being as proactive to look after your tenants, but also to bend over backwards for any potential new occupiers. When we're looking at the retail market, the realities are that we're facing quite similar fundamentals taking place, where the supply side of things has continued to trend upward. We didn't see any completions in Q1 of this year. We didn't see any new launches, but we continue to expect to see completions more than a 10% growth rate in supply in 2024. The realities are that occupancy rate is going to continue to trend downward, and the competition among landlords is going to remain fierce. When we're looking at the overall demand drivers, it's all about population when it comes to commercial property. We are looking at a comparative level to Ho Chi Minh City's completed retail space. And when we're looking at it at a per capita basis, things are going to be very, very competitive when we're looking at Ho Chi Minh City versus Phnom Penh. Population-wise, we're looking at a sort of a 10 million population in Ho Chi Minh City, whereas Phnom Penh only has around 3 million people. If we're further extrapolating when it comes to disposable income, again, some quite significant differences. So that is going to be a challenging sort of mid to long-term battle for retail landlords. And we can see that in the trend for average quoting rent. The only sort of jump we have observed in the last 4 quarters is on the back of prime high street. And this is a reflection of consumer trends. This is a reflection of e-commerce. These prime high street locations are great for visibility. They're great for capturing traffic, but importantly, they're also complementary to e-commerce activity. On that increased rise in supply, we have continued to see average quoting rates trend downward. We've observed quite intriguing trends around the weekend markets, informal markets, pop-up night markets throughout Phnom Penh. This has been a bit of a rapid rise and somewhat of a slow fall for some of these projects. When we allude to that slow fall, it's challenging around numbers in terms of foot traffic. It's challenging in terms of number of potential retailers coming in and actually taking up stalls in these night markets. And I think, like with all retail, it's the challenge of consistency. So this, again, is an intriguing pop-up phenomenon that we've observed. We think that we will continue to see some balance in the overall activity around these informal markets because they allow a broader number of consumers and retailers to come in. Typically, the retailers' ticket size is lower than in a shopping mall because, again, the overheads are lower. So we're looking at sales of around sort of $5 to $10 per transaction. And this is really where the majority of consumers' spending capacity lies. We're seeing hybrid sales take place. So the research consulting team have observed shopping malls and retailers really embracing hybrid e-commerce, where they're using physical stores as their base of operations. But we're seeing these sort of online sellers launching, promoting, and driving sales for bricks and mortar spaces. Finally, we're seeing more clearance sales taking place. And again, it's likely to be a reflection of household income being hit by that economic long COVID. It's an intriguing phenomena, and again, is allowing retail developers to drive sales and traffic to their shopping malls. So without further ado, I will hand the presentation over to my colleague, Kinkesa Kim. Thank you very much for your time and look forward to the Q&A coming up shortly.
Thank you, Lawrence. So carry on, I will be presenting the last three sections of our market insights update for Q1. Before moving on, I would like to remind you to send in your question if you have any into our Q&A box. And after the presentation, we'll do our best to answer to any question you have. So without any further ado, I'll start with the hospitality market, beginning by looking at the updates in hospitality, more specifically tourist arrival. As Lawrence alluded to in the overview section, we have seen a resurgence of international tourist arrivals. And in the whole year of 2023, the actual turnout is actually higher than the expected forecast by the government of 4.5 million. More specifically into 2024, in Q1, our latest data up to February shows that there is a total uptick in the total arrivals of international tourists. But when we dissect it further into the airport level, where we present here arrival through Phnom Penh International Airport and Siem Reap International Airport, we can see that the growth of recovery is not as significant as what we see in the total arrival. This is again linking further to the nationality of these tourist arrival numbers, specifically Thailand and Vietnam, our neighboring countries, are the leading source of tourist arrival. Hence, we probably don't see as significant traffic inside the two international airports as can be expected. On the other hand, we also see a number of ticket sales at Angkor Wat Archaeology Park has also recovered, although the level of recovery, if we compare to 2019, which is prior to COVID heading up, the amount of recovery is still relatively low. This is a comparison of the same first 2 months of the year. As you can see here, 2024 tickets sold, which is turning into around 200,000 tickets, is only around 40% of what we saw in 2019 January and February. This is again impacts on the spending and the type of service and facility that needed by a number of tourists. So again, linking to what we presented earlier in the presentation, we can somehow come to conclusion that a lot of these travelers are actually probably business traveler rather than tourists. Hence, the number of ticket sales at Angkor Wat is not significantly recovered as we expected. On the positive side, we are seeing more airlines resuming. For example, Air Asia and Emirates resumed their operations starting in May. And for Air Asia case, they're starting operating within the 3 domestic destinations, including Phnom Penh, Sihanoukville, and Siem Reap. And price of the ticket can start as low as $49 per ticket, which is again an encouraging sign for both domestic and international traveler traveling between these key cities in Cambodia with better cost and accessibility and options of transportation. Whether the number of tourist arrival we have seen in the macroeconomic data is truly tourists or including business traveler, one way or another, they would need a stay and accommodation. Hence, it's still beneficial for the hotelier in all the key cities. We also observe notable tourism campaigns ongoing across not only in a key destination such as Siem Reap and Sihanoukville, but also alternative destinations including Kampot, other coastal towns, as well as other towns as well. We highlighted here some key events happened in Q1, including the Equinox and River Festival in March. But also coming up this month, which is actually next week, we also are celebrating Khmer New Year or Songkran. In many provinces hosting their own Songkran in the local attractions. So again, this hopefully will spur further tourist activity in both domestic and international. Looking at the number of supply movement in Phnom Penh, we see that the first quarter of 2024, there is a new completions of notable completion of Novotel Phnom Penh, which is quite a significant opening and remarkable movement, and again in the chain segment for hotel. In 2024 as a whole, however, we expect to see a slow growth in hotel supply, only 1% increment compared to 13% year-on-year increment that we saw in 2023. This is not necessarily a bad signal for the hotel market per se. So it's actually keep the competition relatively manageable amidst the gradual recovery of tourist activity in Phnom Penh. So we have good hope for this segment moving on forward in the remaining of 2024. However, it was noting that we also observe a number of notable new supply coming up in the next 1 to 2 years, although we're still looking and observing closely on the ability to open because some of these hotels have changed their opening date several times. So please stay tuned and bear with us and observe together what are the next new supply coming up in our Phnom Penh market. On the average daily rates for hotel, you can see that we presented here, including 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star. Although we cannot highlight the movement across the period, but we have observed that 3-star seems to have recovered more significantly comparing to 4-star and 5-star. This is understandably from the type of tourists or travelers coming into Phnom Penh, mainly business travelers, and prefer to stay at the lower end of or affordable end of the hotel accommodation rather than at the high end. In terms of other trends that we observe in hotel market, we also see outside of Phnom Penh, we see a notable reopening of some hotels that were previously stalled or paused their operation due to COVID and later the economic impact in COVID caused by COVID. And now as we start to see more activities from both international and domestic travelers, some of these hotels are starting to reopen gradually. So these are including key tourist towns such as Siem Reap and Sihanoukville more specifically. Another trend that we also see noticeable in both Phnom Penh and outside of Phnom Penh is newly opened of repurposed hotels, which are converted or transformed from another use, for example, a residential use or office use. Although these transformation or repurposing happens mostly within a smaller scale of shop houses that are being converted. Hence, they are more of a boutique kind accommodation rather than large scale hotel offerings. Moving on to another subsectors in real estate market, which is residential. We were first looking at the movement in condominium and landed property market before moving on to service apartment. On the supply side, presenting here are the movement of supplies in condominium and landed property. Within that, we see that there are significant supply expected in 2024 for both landed property and condominium market. Within that, we see that the supply for condominium market is expecting to complete somewhere in between 10,000 12,000 units within 2024. This is representing a growth rate of around 25% year on year, slightly increase or more rapid than what we saw in 2023, which was around 23% incremental in terms of year-on-year supply. This is again resulted from rapid new launches that we experienced and in the market during particularly 2021 and 2022. A lot of new brewery launches happened, and as a result, after around 2 years or 2.5 years, the supply is now completing and handed over and now putting back into the market for looking for owner occupies as well as leasing demand. On the other end, in the landed property market, we see that the supply growth is expecting to continue within 2024, similar to what we observe in a condominium market as well. However, the number of supply can be quite significant. Within that, we're expecting around 20 plus thousands of units to be completed. Again, this is pressing a lot of competitions pressure into the leasing and resale market, which we will discuss again in the following slides. Without a doubt, when supply continue to grow, it's pressed further on the sale prices. As we can see, the asking rate for condominium, although we can see that the asking rate uphold most likely in almost all the segments. The actual achieved price could actually be quite different in terms of the trends. We have seen some more movement into discounts and offering, whether it's a better incentive in terms of a free management fee, for example, or equipment or a household appliance offering, are still mainstream practice or almost becoming a norm right now in the condominium market. However, year on year, we observe that this asking price has slightly uptick, and hopefully it increased some, managed to achieve a slightly higher price compared to last year. Although when we look at longer term compared to 2019 and 2020, for example, this price has still significantly been adjusted and yet to reach recover to the original levels. Other trends that our team observed in the residential market include further pressures in the sales market. However, we're starting to see some resurgence in leasing market. This is again will link to another trends that we see in the upcoming slide, which is this slide. More and more developers that are offering or selling their units under the guarantee rental return, and now has coming into the handover stage, continue to offer more discount on the rental market, hopefully to attract more tenants, improve the occupancy, and then hence sustain their GRR offering and operation. Because regardless of the occupancy and performance of this unit, developers have their liability or obligation to make payment for the owner of the unit in terms of guarantee return anyways. So offering low rents is only a sensible measure to keep the operations of this GRR unit at least to somewhat a sustainable level. In the landed property market, however, we observe more challenges in terms of conflicts. It's more specifically between the developer and home buyers. If you follow recent news, we have seen more tension occurring between the two stakeholders, particularly around the ongoing delay of construction and handover, as well as the seize of properties. One homeowner who purchased ran out of the ability to continue their payment with the developer. And this tension has been causing more difficulty to not only a developer, of course, the authority, but also it's increasingly impacting the consumer level of confidence for the market. And this again to double up and combine with other effects that we have caused by the oversupply. So we do see that consumer sentiment seems to have softened by a lot in the past 1 to 2 years. Last but not least, within the residential market, some encouraging trends that we have seen is new innovations within the design and offering of unit types. As the competition becoming more fierce, it forced developer to have no choice but reinvent and innovate. Hence, this is actually very beneficial for consumer because now they have more choices of unit types and design. I can give you an example of what innovation we have seen. For example, traditionally we understand that the standard sizes of houses where we call, for example, twin villa is a standard 6 by 12 in terms of building footprint. But right now we start to see some shift in the standard offering into something different, for example, 5 by 12 or 6 by 15, for example, to offer more choices and options for the prospective home buyers. The design has also significantly changed around, especially the well-being and lifestyle of the resident. Right now, focusing more on lights and airflow and convenient space or functional space within the house itself. Moving to the last sections of our presentation, which is service apartment market. This market continue to see a gradual growth in supply, although historically it has never been as aggressive as other segment, for example, in condominium or landed property. So it's actually quite a healthy trend within a service apartment. This year, we're expecting close to over 500 units to be completed within the whole 2024. As of Q1 2024, right now we have a total supply in the market of 4,200 and above units, which is again quite healthy if you look at the historical trend. However, this market segment is not without a challenge, especially being posed directly by the completion of a lot of condominium, which we also discuss later in the slide. Before moving on, I also wanted to point out that it's very interesting to look at the number of the supply by location. As we presented here, up to 82% of the total supply is actually located in the central locations of Phnom Penh, including Bang Kinkong, Chamkamon, and Don Peng districts, which can say a lot about where the demand lies and hence the supplies follow. We expect this trend to continue, having Bang Kinkong, Chamkamon, Don Peng, and perhaps nearby districts such as Tu Kok, being the center of commercial activity, since supplies for residents in this area continue to concentrate. On the rental ends, we are looking at some increase in recovering or researching in rental rates comparing to the previous quarter. Presenting here a quoting rental for grade A and grade B service apartment. We're looking at encouraging signs of plus 4% growth in grade A and 2% growth in grade B market comparing to previous quarter. However, comparing to a previous year, this again haven't made its way up to the previous level yet. We still see a downward of 3% and 6% respectively for grade A and grade B within this year compared to 2023. Trends, we continue to see occupiers right now becoming more aware of the space they are picking. So as price has come down compared to previous year, tenants are now can afford larger space and better quality of space as well. Sorry. We also observe to see increasingly diverse sorts of tenant, not only among the nationality, as we presented here in the slide. Previously, service apartment demand has predominantly supported by Western occupiers, but right now actually a very healthy mix of Asian and East Asians tenants are also seen increasing, as well as some movement from Cambodian occupiers as well, which is also again encouraging. We also see the profile in terms of family size of these tenants to have changed. Significantly, our brokerage team has shared that they have seen significant growth in demand for larger unit, aka 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom types, which is not observed in the previous market before 2022. So this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for your attention and staying with us throughout. If you are interested to find out more about our work, especially in the research and data that we have shared, please visit our research center, which is on our website. You can scan the QR code or subscribe to our property news update channel on Telegram to receive daily by-side news related to property market. And if this presentation is not detailed enough, please consider our subscription report, which will present more in-depth information on each segment of real estate market, and also come with other benefits, including personal presentations within your company, so on and so forth. So thank you once again, and a big shout out to our research and consulting team for putting together this deck, but also to our brokerage colleagues for supplying the information and trends to us. So without any further ado, we'll move on to the Q&A session. I've seen that there are some questions sending in already. Although Lauren has kind of answered one of those questions. Lawrence, do you want to further elaborate on that question?
Great, thank you very much for passing that question over, Kesa. Just bring it up, sorry. So since the landlords provided the special rate to new tenants within the challenging market, would landlords provide rent concessions to current tenants? So first and foremost, get in touch with our office services team. They are the best people to talk to on this subject matter. It's likely that there would be some room for concession. It all comes down to what your contract says, what the terms and conditions are. But as I alluded to earlier, as I mentioned earlier, landlords are generally needing to bend over backwards because of the oversupply situation. You'll find that new landlords are increasingly flexible. Older landlords are not necessarily feeling the pain yet, but for sure you would be able to have a good chance of getting some rental concession. Are there any more questions from the audience? We've only received one today, but if not, we can give it around 30 seconds and call it a day. We'll give it 30 seconds, and if anyone has any questions, please send them in. Otherwise, we will close off the webinar.
It seems that our audience today has absorbed the information very well, and no questions so far. Okay, we have another question come in about our perspective on the real estate sector in Cambodia in 2024. It's such a light question in terms of the possibility or depending on which angle you're looking from. Probably I'll try my best to cover the residential, and Lawrence can cover from the commercial standpoint or alternative standpoint, if any, Lawrence. So I'll begin first in terms of residential market. I think key trends that we can expect in 2024 is basically the continuous slow in new launches. As we present throughout this presentation, developer, especially in landed property right now, also including condos right now, are quite bearish about the market, and as they focusing more on disposable of the existing inventory within their units rather than opening up. We may still see opening or launching of a few new projects or phases within the existing projects. As a developer, again, they have to keep their projects moving, and we all can also expect more innovation or changing because the same old product is getting less and less attractive right now. So it forces a developer to think more creatively in terms of their design and offering. Any notable trend that you expect in the commercial market, Lawrence?
Thanks for that great insight, Kesa. Well, sure. I think the short answer is pain, which is the unpopular and not exactly common spoken about trend, but most commercial landlords are facing an increasingly competitive market. If you are going to, or if you're thinking about building an office, number one, please reconsider. Number two, if you're going to do it, make sure you are future-proofing that project as much as possible. Make sure you're thinking about what the market might look like 3 to 5 years down the line when your project comes on to completion. So just keep that in mind. Outside of that, the alternatives are really interesting. So if we're talking about healthcare, if we're talking about education, if we're talking about industrial logistics, cold chain, data centers, the realities are all of these alternatives will be a lot more sort of non-recessionary as long as not every developer and landlord enters those spaces. But these are things that Cambodia needs and all markets need in good times and bad times. So my recommendation would be to explore those alternatives as much as possible during these rocky and uncertain times, and which answers the next anonymous attendee's answer, what should I invest in 2024? The last item I would probably mention there is land, particularly in this context where we are observing distress, we are seeing non-performing loans. So the realities are that there are opportunities out there that haven't been around for the past decade. Now is quite an interesting time to be investing in distressed assets, and in particular land in good locations. If I may add on to Lawrence's note on the question of which sector should you invest in 2024, we receive this question very often, and the answers actually come down to who you are, your budget, and your investment strategy. It's always personalized, and there's no one size fits all. But as Lawrence alluded to, all those pains of landlords and owners is actually the gain of the buyer at this moment. If you have the cash and ability to acquire this asset. Adding on to what Lauren already covered on the alternative and land, I think the income generating asset is also something worth looking at. Although we still see consistent pain across all the market, but there are certain office buildings, service apartment buildings which are performing quite well. Some of these are in a mature stage, reaching 70%, 80% occupancy rate as well. So if this is something that the investor is experienced or interested in exploring, some renovations or adjustment to the existing operating and already occupied building can actually improve the attractiveness of the building, and hence probably increase the potential upsize of acquiring this asset generating asset as well.
So that's it for the broad questions about which sector should be focusing on in 2024. There are some questions about office market. I think I will hand over to Lawrence probably on first question about the difference between asking price and achieved price in CBD, and very specific. And another question following on that perspective on co-working space.
Sure.
Hand over to you, Lawrence.
The realities are there's only so much I would like to say in a public setting, but transactions can be between 10 to 30% below asking price. Of course, it's case by case. We've seen more extreme examples of that. A lot of these things will depend on who the tenant is. So a lot of landlords are going to be more flexible for a brand name, a household name, multinational corporation. These are, the gold standard tenants that pay their rent on time, that build the prestige of a project. And more often than not, particularly with these newer buildings that come online, there's a period where occupiers are cautious around entering a new building or a new project because in some instances, it's a totally new landlord. So a lot of, particularly multinationals, are cautious around entering those types of buildings without much of a track record around the operations, the management, property management being a particularly important component of controlling the quality of life within an office. So as such, we see particularly these new landlords that are coming online being very aggressive in their offering to these occupiers, not only in terms of transacted rent, but also in terms of incentives around rent-free periods, around handover condition. That said, it's not just about new and old landlords. A lot of this just comes down to supply and demand. We went from 2019 having 500,000 square meters of net leasable area, today having around 1 million square meters of net leasable area of office space. By the end of this year, as you saw in the slides earlier, we'll have around 1.2 million square meters. This is in a context with a lower number of multinationals. This is in a context with economic long COVID. So definitely challenging and definitely extremely competitive.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Lawrence. Any take on the perspective of the growth of co-working space in Phnom Penh?
I would assume this may be a landlord looking to take up some of their space. There are pros and cons to co-working. You can more often than not actually achieve a higher rental rate per square meter just because of the way that business model works. We see some success stories around co-working spaces, and where the opportunity may lie is capturing more of those small to medium-sized enterprises that are currently operating in an old school setup, maybe in a shop house, maybe in an apartment, that are looking to move into a more formal professional working environment. That's where that opportunity lies. If you have a look at the slides that we mentioned earlier in terms of the demographic, the makeup, if the average space that these sort of workers, as it were, are using is below 30 square meters, then co-working would be ideal for a small to medium-sized enterprise looking to modernize and professionalize. So there will be some demand, but the key is just understanding the consumer, understanding their budget in terms of what their general requirements might look like. I would anticipate that you shouldn't overspend on the fit out, overspend on the design. The majority of consumers or potential users are going to be in the sort of, let's say, lower to mid end of the consumer market. These could be startups, therefore they're young, or they could be, as I mentioned, small to medium-sized enterprises that are not necessarily looking to expend a great deal on rental rates. So I hope that answers some of your thoughts and questions on that area.
Thanks, Lawrence. I think there's another question that I can take around a condominium market. What is your take on a secondary market of condo comparing to pre-COVID? Honestly speaking, I don't think that the trends in secondary market has changed that much. We have always understand of a condominium market as a low appreciation or capital appreciation growth comparing to property like landed property. But the upside of condo is more on the rental yields that we have seen also deteriorating in the recent year as well. So comparing to pre-COVID-19 in terms of pricings and return is not that much different. However, in terms of marketability, this is definitely a challenge, and it's no secret that when you are one of the owner among 60,000 other units that probably 30,000 of them are being put on market for sales as well. This is not particularly working in your favor, but I think there are some times that needed to be for the market to mature a bit more because the supply growth is so rapid that the demand couldn't really catch up. Hence, the movement in secondary market is probably not as fast as we want it to be. But we still see some sales going on in recent months as observed in the broker activity that our team has completed. But the price has come down by a lot comparing to previous year. I hope that answer your question. Thank you. Actually, there's another question that also linking to a condominium market. I'll try to answer that linking to the above question if you don't mind. My unit used to be listed out at 450 per month and now only 250 if I'm lucky. What can I do to secure a better rental rate, more capital in, or just keep it as it is? Unfortunately, this is just a very common story or a family story. When supplies increase very fast, this is what you can expect. And as presented throughout, we have now new supply that also putting at affordable rent for rent as well by whether developer or owners like yourself. And unfortunately, this is just a truth that we have to accept when market is contracting. However, as a personal advice, I think that if you can put on some work into renovating or redecorating the unit, it can increase your chance of having a higher rent. But again, it would also link to other factors, including amenity and location of this property as well, so how much you can increase. But even if you cannot increase it and you're not willing to put in more capital, keep it as it is probably also a good idea as long as it's occupied and cover your costs on, maybe a financing cost or property management cost. This is also good enough for the current market. Unfortunately, I know it's not great to hear as an owner of a property, but unfortunately, it's just the reality of the market that we are having right now.
Just to sort of jump in on top of that, I think just making sure that you're talking with the right agents as well. Without any context in terms of where your property is and all of these fundamental details, just making sure you're speaking with a good agent is going to increase the chance of you leasing the unit for the price that you want. Yeah, simple as.
Okay. I'm conscious of time. Maybe we can take on another question. There's a question about what factors still hinder the recovery of real estate sector. I think this is quite interesting. While a lot of people, including us, have been talking about the challenges, not a lot of talk about what factor is still hindering and why demand haven't recovered. I'll give the floor to Lauren first to cover that question, and I'll follow up with additional answers.
Great, thank you much, Kesa. I mean, what a complex question in reality, and it comes down to a range of things. It comes down to, as you will have noticed earlier on when we were talking about the macroeconomy, the state of the Chinese real estate market, of course, has some direct knock-on effect. That's 30% of their GDP and 70% of household wealth. It's how provincial governments raise money for staff or employee salaries, municipal services, etc., etc. So if China is having that major slowdown, it will have a knock-on effect in terms of their disposable income, as it were, as a nation. China represents historically around 50% of foreign direct investment into Cambodia. So if they don't have a surplus of capital within their system, if they're restricting the movement of funds outside of China, that will have an immediate knock-on effect on countries that had previously benefited from foreign direct investment from China. Outside of that, the state of the manufacturing market, this has an indirect effect in terms of workers not necessarily being employed or not necessarily being fully employed in that space. So that has a knock-on effect on things like the banking sector and non-performing loans, both in terms of MFIs and also commercial banking. So that has a knock-on effect on liquidity as well. The slow recovery of tourism, again, has a knock-on effect because particularly for destinations like Siem Reap that are very tourism dependent, that has impacts. These are really the major drivers of Cambodia's economy outside of the service industry, of course, which is in recovery mode, and agriculture, which actually had a really good 2023, and it's likely that we will continue to see a lot of really interesting activity in that space. So long story short, economic challenges leading to household income reduction, reduced foreign direct investment, and then finally, real estate has been a pretty major driver of economic activity over the past decade plus in Cambodia's economy. And a lot of that came down to a number of factors, but these buildings, these projects performed because they were in a state of undersupply for around 10 to 12 years, give or take. 2019, 2020, we saw a bit of an inflection point where the supply outstripped demand, whether it's for office, whether it's for retail, whether it's for condominium. And the realities are supply is like a force of nature, it's like gravity, supply and demand that is. So unless we work on ways to reinvigorate demand through improving the state of the economy, which in turn helps household income, unless we are working on things like maybe increasing urbanization, because we still only have 25% urbanization in Cambodia. This in turn will cause further economic activity. It comes with costs for sure, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of where these people are housed, etc., etc. But long story short, these are some of the key factors that have led to the continued slow recovery of the real estate sector.
Okay, as I said, I would add on, but the rest has actually covered everything. But just to recap, I think in a nutshell, like Lawrence said, the macroeconomic or global economic impact, spending and investment, FDI, and hence Cambodia consumption as well as income. So that's in a nutshell what is still hinder the recovery of real estate. I think 2024 is probably another challenging year before we starting to see any significant recovery. Once the global economic and more specifically Cambodian economics recover, we can expect some lag time as well between that. and real estate market. So I think that some segment would do better or recover faster. It's a different story for different segment. But I think in general, there will be some more challenge along the road. Thank you. I think we'll take on just one last question. This is quite specific from our audience, is probably from a bank. In the banking sector, the NPL loan is increasing, and forcing the sale price to come down. So there's a risk for bank to release more loan. What is the recommendation for the banks? I'll start off and then I'll pass on to Lawrence on this one. I believe each bank would have their own bandwidth in terms of your level of exposure into not only real estate but also other sector. I think diversification is the key here. It's never a good idea to rely too heavily on either which segment, because market movement is just too volatile if you depends too much on a segment. Then I think diversification is a key for your portfolio here. However, for those property sale prices of the property that you already loan on, it's probably a challenging time right now to evaluate the risk, but it's worth considering it very carefully anyway. We would recommending regular valuation of your portfolio to understand the level of risk that you are exposed to, and review the profile of the customer again for the existing customer. And for the new customer, I think a lot of banks that we have talked to, they have been more strict in terms of the reviewing process as well. So that's just some basic steps that you can do to be extra careful on your portfolio. But I think the diversification is really the key here. Anything to add on, Lawrence?
I think a lot of things come down to valuations. So in terms of recommendation to banks, I would be checking valuations as if my life depended on it, which is a bit of an extreme statement to make, but I would be rigorously reviewing the values of my collateral, because that fundamentally is where your risk will lie in this economic real estate situation. So I would both employ your internal valuation team to be as rigorous as possible. But again, without sounding like a salesman, I would also appoint an external third-party valuer for the sake of independence. This might be on a semi-regular basis. This might be on a spot checking basis. But really, I would put a lot of emphasis on reducing your level of trust in any data that you have, just because things move fast in a challenging economic time.
Okay, I think that's cover everything. I think unfortunately we don't have much more time for further questions, but just want to highlight again, as usual, our webinar is recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if you want to rewatch the session, please go to our YouTube channel. We will also post this presentation on our website on the Research Center webpage, and we'll also email out if you have registered to the webinar. You've also received in your inbox. So stay tuned, and once again, thank you for sharing your time with us this morning. It will be a lot of work that needed to be done in the real estate market and relevant sectors, but let's strive together and come out of it stronger. Thank you once again, everyone. I hope you have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.